Hi, welcome to the podcast, Maura. How are you tonight?
I'm doing okay. I'm pet sitting and there is a dog next to me chewing on a bone, so hopefully that's not going to be picked up, but just in case
Uh,
you guys don't think I'm just like thrashing around, that's what's happening.
no, this is classic pandemic culture. You always have that one dog barking in the background, so just try
Perfect.
and
Except for
tune
this
that
is
out if you
not
hear that.
this hasn't like this dog hasn't barked yet, but she really is going to town on this bone. So.
Yeah. So Maura is not a journalist. That's in her Twitter bio. I don't know if I should introduce you as that, but there you go.
It's
Contributor
important to
to The
note.
Onion, Reductress, and Works at Miss Sweeney's, and The New Yorker, and others, amongst others. How would you introduce yourself?
It's a good question. I have so many different introductions for myself depending on like the tenor and tone of the group or person or audience that I'm speaking for because I'm
Yeah.
the Tax March executive director, so there's a whole like political and advocacy side, and then I
Well, that
write
sounds official as
comedy.
fuck.
Yeah, it sounds really, really official. Like it's very, very above board. And then I write comedy and I contribute to The Onion, so like sometimes that's what people want to hear. And I also, write here and there for different things. And I'm a mom. I live in Pennsylvania. There's like all sorts of. I am very multifaceted. I contain multitudes. So, I bake a really great cookie. There's a lot going on here.
I have a question right off the bat. I'd
Is it about
actually want to
cookies?
know, not exactly.
Oh,
I'd
okay.
actually want to know if there was a reason, aside from you just being nice, of coming onto this show. Like, is there anything you'd want to like talk about to our 30 subscribers? Because I don't know, we're like the epitome of niche. Not even niche. I think that's too much of patting ourselves on the back. We're like,
Super niche.
yeah.
You're the niche's niche. That's fantastic. No, I mean I'm along for the ride. Whatever you guys want to chat about, I'm down and game. For me, it's just sort of fun to get to hang out, basically. It's still like it's been a pandemic for a year. I'm like stuck in central Pennsylvania, so I used to just go to a bar and start talking to people, and this is my version of that for now until I can kind of start going back to bars again. Although this is much cheaper.
Do you happen to be intoxicated?
So what? Yes, I'm vaccinated.
No, I said
Oh,
intoxicated.
oh, intoxicated. No, I'm not intoxicated. I mean, like, I have the opportunity to be. If you guys want me to be doing shots during this, that's on the table too. But no, for right now, I'm just got water. So, how
Yeah, so
about
why
you?
don't we start with that? How's post-pandemic life treating you? We're not there yet, but we're
No.
getting there.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird to be sort of going back into the world, and it's both weird to like be vaccinated and go out and not be sort of panicking when there are people around, and also kind of weird how many times I've walked into a place like without putting my mask on and having to be like, oh right, no, I still have to do that. That's like my brain it shifted immediately to like pre-pandemic, and I had to remind myself like, no, you've lived a different reality for a year, and that's still happening. So I'm it's kind of strange. I feel very like twisted all the time. How about you guys?
Well, where I'm from, we're still, obligated to wear masks and whatnot, so I'm looking forward to not being able to, I mean, to not doing that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I also sort of you kind of grow attached to masks too. Like there's a safety feeling to them as well, even when they're like the same way like people kind of just sort of want to like hide a little bit in public. It provides that too. So it's sort of strange to take them off at times as well. But it is really nice at the very least feeling like you can be
Yeah,
outside
yeah.
and not wear a mask. That's very freeing. That's very nice. Because it's getting
Before the
hot.
pandemic, didn't we say that we'd like all learn a skill? Like, didn't we say that we'd all learn to make sourdough bread or like learn to play a musical instrument? Like, I don't
Some
think
people
that
did.
has happened for most people. Some people did. Did you?
No, so you're telling me you guys didn't? You didn't like write a book or a novel or
I mean,
learn
I,
to learn martial arts or something?
I started a podcast. I learned the guitar. I've done a few things. Maybe it's
Hey,
just
that's
Honky that
great.
hasn't done anything.
No, I haven't done anything.
Oh,
Nothing at all. I've gotten a little bit better at cleaning. Like because I'm in my house all the time, I've really perfected which sprays to use where, how often to clean a surface. Like I've got that stuff down. So that's very impressive, I'm sure. Everyone's really blown away.
good job.
Got.
I mean, you've probably gotten better at not being a journalist and stuff, not just cleaning.
I just every single day I continue to grow in my non-journalistness. It's so I had to put that in my bio because people get mad at me online a lot. And because they see publications listed in my bio, they immediately would start being like, look at this journalist. She like so often that it was making me insane. So I thought I would just lead with I am not a journalist, which only cut down the instances of being called a journalist, like maybe in half, but it still happens.
Yeah, I guess how occupied are you with your work? Like what does a typical day look like for you? Because
Well, I work full time for Tax March. I'm executive directoring nonstop. So a typical day is a very like standard officey work day, really, because I'm working with a lot of other organizations throughout the country who are 9 to 5-ish. So I've got a lot of I'm on Zoom calls a lot, like all day, just sort of one meeting to another. And then because I also then work with activists and organizers across the country who are oftentimes volunteering, um, they often don't have time until the evenings, so there's a lot of that going on. And then if I'm writing comedy these days, it's like in the moments in between, which is why it's not happening quite so much right now. But I miss it. I get little onion prompts
Mhm.
pretty regularly and get to like send them jokes every day, which is fun. But that's like a lunch hour, basically.
Like a break.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, oh, this is something else to do. Like if I didn't have that, I'd be doing Sudoku or something.
Well, for me, that's probably what I don't think they have like the authors in the Onion articles, right? Do
No,
they
no, it's all totally, uh, there's no attribution whatsoever there.
Are there
yeah.
any articles that you were proud of that you would want to take credit for?
There's plenty that I want to take credit for, but nothing I've written that I want to take
Oh,
credit for everybody else's work. No, I'm just a contributor, so that just means I just like throw out jokes to some of their sort of smaller things. All of the actual articles are written by their full-time staff in Chicago. So they're incredibly, just super funny, amazing people, but I don't live in Chicago, so I can't be one of them. So I'm just a little tiny nothing cog in the onion machine, but
as
it
we
is
all
very
are,
fun.
except
Yeah,
for
really.
the onion.
Exactly. I have a question for you guys. I want to know what's with the name of your podcast here. Why this name?
It kind of came to us on the spot. It's like edgy, kind of. We also talk about like mental illness somewhat.
This is funny because I could tell that you haven't researched us because
No.
we yeah, we usually interview like musicians and
Well, so I
you
did
know,
look at that, and I did
yeah.
see that. I didn't, and I listened to like a little bit, but I didn't do any real deep dives. So I am pretty blind here and really stupid. So I'm sorry.
It's better that way.
I kind of figured like, oh, I'll wing it. It's all right. Does that mean I need to like sing something, or I can do that.
I
Oh,
mean,
you saw that? That's hilarious. That was supposed to be a surprise.
I mean, there hasn't been karaoke in a while, but I'm ready. I can do it.
Yeah, no, it's usually just a independent musician, so this is kind of our breakout episode. I'm sure it'll do really well. I'm cool to get kind of philosophical with you here.
Okay.
Um, not philosophical, just like I don't know, interesting topics. Um, are you afraid that the onion can like kind of spread false information? I know that it's like satire, but do you think that some people could take it as real stuff?
Well, sure. I mean, anytime you see, I mean, so fundamentally, when you talk about satire, there is an expectation that there is going to be a percentage of people who read it who take it at face value. That's just like inherent in the definition of satire. And satirists have to be aware of that and prepared for it. So anytime anyone is creating satire, I think they need to recognize that that's going to happen. It's not even just that it's likely to happen or might happen, but it absolutely will happen, at least if it's reasonably sort of on the money satire. The Onion, in particular, I think it's less worrying because they're such a known brand, so it can't really travel too far without people being very aware of what the Onion is and where the information
Yeah.
slash non-information is coming from. So, because it has that sort of known quality, it's far less of a concern, really.
Yeah, it's also extremely obvious that it's not real, in my
I mean,
opinion.
sometimes, but not always. Like sometimes,
Not always.
absolutely, but there are definitely pieces where it's like, no, this could absolutely just exist as a news story. And I mean, it's become its own meme that people will post regular news stories and write "not the Onion" above it because the news itself is so fucked up. So,
Got you.
so it's can be very hard to differentiate, but you can't
Yeah,
really spread the onion too far without someone correcting you.
you see that as well with Facebook. There's tons of false information on that, and then you have all these Facebook conspiracy theorists doing whatever they please. Like, I don't know, false information is kind of a big deal these days, and it's hard. It's
Yeah, I
hard.
find
It's hard to like distinguish what's true and what's false.
definitely. I find Facebook really terrifying in terms of the way that messaging and information or disinformation is spread throughout it. It's really fascinating, especially if you ever look at sort of your Facebook experience and what you're being shown, and if you really look at someone who has a completely different set of interests and different lifestyle and different belief system than yours, and you see what they're being shown, and alarming in the very least, and really disturbing.
Yeah, I deleted my Facebook account about a
That's
year
good.
ago, and I'm glad I never went back.
Yeah, I would love to. I went through a phase and I just sort of unfriended everyone, but unfortunately for work, I still had to maintain an account because I had to access some individuals and some organizations where that was the only way to really access them. So I still had to be present, but I just kind of like I stopped putting anything out on it for a while, and just sort of tried to like sever all ties and use it only in this one particular way. But I
Mhm.
really wanted to get rid of it. I'm very jealous of people who can delete their Facebook.
I feel the same way about Twitter and Instagram. The only reason I have it is just for the podcast.
Oh, really? Yeah. I feel like Twitter, like if you're not actively on Twitter, it's just so easy to completely ignore, at least. Like, if you check in, like, and you're not really following too many people or whatever, it seems like it's very easy to kind of just really keep your experience very, very small or as like controlled as you want it. I think more than with Facebook.
Mhm.
I don't know. Maybe
Yeah,
I'm
it can be dangerous, I think, because especially with the pandemic and all, and like BLM uh, tensions in the political sense. Yeah, we like fucking anti-vaxxers. There's a rise, and I don't want to get controversial here, but that's just an observation directly tied to social media.
there are, yeah, social media. I mean, it allows people certainly to find one another and connect, and that can obviously lead to good, and people can find support and community in places where they might not otherwise have it. But then it can also certainly allow the festering of these evils, where people can reinforce their negative viewpoints and their conspiracy ideas, and find others to pull into it as well. So yeah,
Yeah, for
it's a
sure.
mixed bag.
Do you think that these social media platforms should prohibit spreading false information and bad ideas, or do you think that just let them reign free?
So I don't think that these social media sites, when like people talk about just sort of a complete open marketplace and full free exchange of ideas, and I don't think that's what's happening now anyway. So I don't
Yeah,
think we're like debating, oh, it should be
Yeah.
left in this free place, or we should, get rid of some of these more harmful elements. I think we're already in a place where it's being manipulated and it's being monitored, and so given that that's the case, yeah, absolutely, they should be doing more to purge disinformation and purge these really harmful accounts and individuals who are spreading, um, you know, violent speech, etc. So yeah, I do believe that they should take a more active role in some of that.
At what point does that kind of impede your right to free speech, though?
Well, it doesn't,
That
because your right to
restriction.
free speech is a right given to you by the government, and these are not government-controlled sites; they're corporations. So it it doesn't. You're
That's
not going to
true. That's a
be
good point.
imprisoned for something that you're saying. So your right to free speech remains. And now we're just talking about whether or not these places are sort of the new public town square. And if they are, should they then be controlled by corporations, or should there be free speech areas that are, that are made public, and fully public? And that's a whole other sort of consideration and conversation. And I think that there are a lot of different points to take in there. And I'm not. This isn't necessarily like my full field of study, so I just sort of kind of glance in on
Yeah,
this stuff every so often. So I don't have tremendously strong ideas of what needs to happen, but from what I can tell, there's a lot to discuss there, and a lot of viewpoints that I think are potentially valid. But
Mhm.
definitely, I can at least say for right now, this has nothing to do with your right to free speech as it currently exists.
That makes a whole lot of sense.
as you said, it's about the town square. Like so many people need these platforms to be able to communicate with large groups of people. Without that, they can't really talk. Like Trump would not have won if it wasn't for Twitter. So many people need these platforms to speak. It is the new town square.
Sure. I
I
mean, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I love how you said Trump would not have won because of if he didn't have Twitter, because you're damn right that he makes some banger tweets. You cannot argue that.
He was very, very good troll. He was a fantastic Twitter troll.
Agreed.
If that was like all he was going for, and that was an award we could have given him, I certainly would have understood that being one. But unfortunately, it spread a little bit beyond.
Yeah. Who do you think is more memeable, Trump or Biden? Because it's very close between the two.
Well, I think any public figure, like the more that you are in the public sphere, the more memeable you are, simply because everyone knows you and you've got more like photo ops and more sort of moments that can be taken out of context, and or in Trump's Trump in particular, like fully taken in context. They don't need it all to be taken out of context. But like I think that, kind of whoever is most visible is the most memeable. I think, so it's hard to say. Obviously,
Because Biden has like his senile behavior tendencies, and obviously Trump's Trump, so it's very close between the two. I don't think Trump ever tripped up the stairs, so there's 1 point for Biden. It's a close competition. We're gonna need to do some hard analysis on this.
first of all, I don't think that's true. Trump definitely tripped up the stairs. I totally,
Is that
or
true?
I really believe he did. Like, I really feel like I can find this. I feel like it was
Oh
like
my
even on
god.
like, or maybe it wasn't even stairs, like on a ramp or something. Like
These stairs must be cursed
I
up to the plane.
I mean, I know he was always like, he had a problem with stairs in general, but I don't know. There's so much terrible Trump stuff that like entered my brain over the course of more than 4 years, like 5 or 6 years even at this point, because it started in the primary. And it all gets kind of mushed together into just this terrible like sludge and I would love to just trace it somehow, but it's still rattling around in there. So I'm pretty sure there was some sort of Trump stairs incident, but hopefully I'm wrong, because that would mean I'm forgetting things, which would be great.
No, let's be honest. You could have the perfect epitome of a human being in the presidential position, and they'd still be memed.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's just it. The more people know you, the more memeable you are. So it works out. You can't get around that. I mean,
Must be a
to be
hard job,
memed,
geez.
I don't know. Is that even bad all the time? Like, it can be good.
All publicity is good publicity.
I think it might have been on The Onion. There was an article about Joe Biden having a lot on his agenda and him not being able to get to it because he simply doesn't give a shit of what he has to do. That was, I don't know. There's a lot of good
Yes,
stuff.
that
I
was
could, yeah.
annoying.
I could list all the articles and all of it is worthy of discussion.
Yeah,
I
he
guess
was kind of old, but I liked it.
I guess we could kind of go into like the more recent news if we're all up to date on that. Like, any thoughts on Russian cyber attacks?
I have zero thoughts on Russian cyber attacks.
I have zero thoughts. I don't even think it's Russian.
Well, it's allegedly Russia. I don't know.
I'm sure that we're being cyber attacked all the time. Like I'm sure they're happening, but I don't have any thoughts on them other than some small element of like what's wrong with our cyber attacking. It seems like we suck at it. I always feel like the U.S. is falling behind in cyber attacks. It's always other countries cyber attacking, never us. What the hell?
I think it's because the U.S. since the U.S. is the main political force, we say, "Hey guys, don't cyber attack. That's bad."
I mean, you don't say.
Other countries can get away with it, while the U.S.
That
we
doesn't
can't.
sound right. We do all sorts of terrible things. Why wouldn't we be doing that? I mean, like either we're doing it so underhandedly, like in a way that we're, like we're doing it and then blaming someone else, or doing it in a way that's like not even being noticed, like we're skimming, that 1 cent off of every transaction kind of thing. I don't know, but I don't buy it. I just feel like, if the U.S. wants to be a superpower, it should obviously, that should mean everything. That should include cyber attacking. That's all I'm saying.
I agree. We should definitely cyber attack.
I mean, not to stereotype or anything, but Russian hackers, maybe they're just better at it than we are.
And that's just it. I feel like we're being shown up. Like what happened to the pride in American craftsmanship? We're just gonna cede cyber attacking to the Russians? Come on.
Do you think America is going to remain a global power in the next 30 years?
I don't really know exactly what global power means. I mean, it usually means economic or via like military means. And I think, yes, that over the next 30 years it will remain in. I'm not going to grant U.S. #1 at anything, but certainly I think it will remain to have some power.
Yeah, that was kind of a vague.
Yeah. I'll answer as vaguely as you asked.
Oh man, I was watching a politician press conference in preparation for this, just in case. And their answers are so funny. They'd never answer a question.
No, it's amazing. I'm so impressed, actually. It's like, because I find it really hard not to answer questions, and I have to do interviews sometimes, and
I know.
It's like I've had to kind of learn a little bit how to do that, how to hear a question and just randomly pull out one word and like spin off in the direction you want to go, but still sound like you're kind of on point, but in no way are you answering anything that person said. That's a unique skill that I do not naturally have, but
It is a skill. You have to practice.
You have to practice so much. I feel like
if
lawyers
any, yeah.
about it too.
No. If anyone wants to master the skill of avoiding questions, Justin Trudeau's your guy.
I'll watch him more. Yeah, but from what I've seen, that sounds about right.
Yeah. Lots of people don't like him in Canada, but what can you do?
I have heard that. Yeah. He's not necessarily the most popular, at least not among the left from what I've seen. And it's obviously the right, but the left, I mean. He's another sort of... My friend in Vancouver has been just telling me how great it's been, so I'm like,
Oh, is it good there? Oh.
Yeah, I mean, he's been telling me they've been like going to restaurants for quite some time, and I mean, he's always basically bragging to me anytime I speak to him. He's just rubbing it in my face. So maybe it's just him. I don't know. I'm assuming it's at least all of Vancouver, but I could be extrapolating incorrectly there. I'm not sure.
Well, is he just breaking into restaurants and feeding
Yeah,
himself?
I mean, I guess I don't know his life that well. Perhaps I should be making completely different conclusions, but I definitely thought it meant Vancouver was doing well.
For the average person watching this that expected like a music podcast, how would you
Sorry.
explain your Tax the Rich project, or the not yours, but the project that you're working on? How would you explain it? Except for just Tax the
I was gonna
Rich.
say, like, does this mean I'm supposed to set it to song now? I don't have a Tax the Rich song, but I should probably come up with one. I mean, I'm pretty sure there's some good like punk Eat the Rich songs at least, so we could just pull those in there. It's pretty much the same. Um, so Tax March is the group that I lead, and basically it's an organization that fights for tax fairness for the last I don't know, let's say 40 odd years or more. Our country has been just continually giving the wealthiest more and more tax breaks and um, taxing them less and less and less. And it's been a steep sort of decline. And when you do this, the wealthy have more money. And when they have more money, they can do things like just buy politicians and buy political races. So it immediately translates into having more power, more democratic power. So taxing the rich is not just sort of an economic issue, but it becomes then an issue of democracy, an issue of fairness, an issue of how it affects everything, really. So that's what we do. We fight to tax the rich. But
I
I'm sure
100%
you
agree.
guys
Yeah,
do.
with all the money that you can get, like so many big billion or trillion dollar companies, they influence politics so much. Like search engines can manipulate results easily to skew people one way.
Mm-hmm.
Social media platforms like Twitter, Facebook, etc., they can also just use all of their money and power to just change what everyone thinks and buy off politicians.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have a
That's for
tremendous amount. And there's so many monopolies right now that we are sort of living under that we don't really necessarily pay attention to, and monopsonies as well that fully that run everything basically. And
Social media is pretty much a monopoly.
there is a lot of that.
What sorts of things do you do with them to fight or advocate for tax fairness?
It's a really
Like,
good question because it's a super big problem. So, um, fundamentally, we are doing a lot of education campaigns. We work with a lot of organizers and activists across the country to do a lot of on the ground events, which can mean all sorts of things. It's just sort of like, how do you educate the people around you? And that can take a lot of different forms. I mean, it can just be a party. You just have people and you have one person speak at the party for a couple of minutes, and then otherwise everyone's just sort of
no,
there
okay.
and having. And then, we also are talking to other organizations that don't focus on economic policy and trying to give them materials that they can weave into the work that they're doing. So we talk to environmental groups and education groups and civil rights groups and sort of give them the ways to talk about taxing the rich and tax fairness in the messaging that they're already doing to sort of broaden these things. We get involved in a lot of coalition work, and then we also do direct action where we will target individual Congress people and senators and push them on particular bills and particular policies when there's something really relevant, and try to give them the tools that they need to,
Yeah.
pass something, or otherwise demonize them appropriately, depending on who they are and what the issue is and what stance they're taking. So
Yeah, it
We're
pretty much seems like you're doing all things possible.
we're doing everything we can. It's a
Yeah.
lot. It's a lot, and it is a very tiring thing because fundamentally we're looking to like shift the mindset on this, which is not a small task and not an easy one to necessarily measure or do in any sort of short period of time. But we've already seen tax march has been around since 2017, and we have seen huge, huge shifts in the way that politicians are talking about taxing the rich. So, you know,
Hmm.
through us and through a lot of others, it is starting to seep in. There is some actual cultural shift happening, which is really encouraging, at least.
I think taxing the upper middle class is always going to happen, but getting to tax like the top 111%, the trillionaires, Jeff Bezos and such, I think we would need a lot of work to do that because of just the amount of power that they have.
Yeah, I mean, the tricky part is that there are so many different ways for the wealthiest to avoid the taxes. So it's there are so many different ways that have to be done sort of concurrently. I mean, you have to raise the top marginal tax rate. That's one thing. But then you also have to close loopholes that allow them to avoid that. That's another thing. But then actually, the top marginal tax rate, we're only talking about work that you make via labor. If you make most of your money just on like selling stocks and capital gains, which is how the wealthiest make their money, then you're getting taxed at a different rate. So we also then need to equalize capital gains tax rate to the marginal tax rate. So like now I'm just being really annoying and wonky in policy, but like there are a lot of different sort of strands that have to be pulled simultaneously for for change to really be affected. But we're trying to do them all, so we'll see.
I'm guessing. I'm guessing that takes up most of the time in your day working with them.
It does, yeah. That's a
Yeah.
large portion of my day, which is definitely getting in the way of my writing the screenplay that I have in my head. But eventually, eventually, I'll get
Mhm.
that one out too.
I would agree about what you said with stocks, but I actually plan
Mhm.
on making money with stocks, so I'm just not gonna have to stay silent on that.
Well, look, I mean, just like we have a marginal tax rate that changes depending on how much you're making, it should be the same with capital gains. So if you plan to make money off of capital gains, I'm assuming you're not starting out as a billionaire. Your tax rate on capital gains should be lower than, say, a Jeff Bezos who is making billions off of capital gains, that. So it's all right. You can still be on our side. It won't hurt you, I promise. Not too much.
This leans in well to a segment that we have, where basically our last guest asks a question for our next guest,
Mm,
and so on.
hmm
So our last guest asked, "What is your purpose in life?"
Oh God. So like really easy one, huh? They just like had no problem. It was like that or favorite ice cream flavor, I imagine.
Yeah.
What is
Yeah.
my
By
purpose?
the title of the show, you could assume why he asked that question.
Yeah, I could probably see a connection there, a small one. Um, you know, that's a fantastic question for everyone to obviously contemplate for probably their entire lives, and I would imagine that a lucky few find something and decide that's it and can sort of hold that purpose throughout their life as a singular thing. For me, I think it evolves and changes as I evolve and change, but I think my goal in life in general, no matter what it is that I'm doing, is to basically somehow leave the world better than I found it. And um, that's sort of my sense of driving purpose is just to somehow have, in whatever way, and not in any way that ever needs to be known or recognized, but to be able to feel to myself that when I am gone, things will have been made just this teeniest, tiniest fraction better for
Yeah.
others. So
I guess the
that's,
easiest way to start with that is just to be nice to people.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
that's huge.
Mhm.
That's really huge.
Yeah, because like there's so much conflict nowadays. Just don't just be nice. Everything will solve itself.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, it is kind of fascinating, I think, how it can be really surprising the response that you can get when you are just nice to people. Like, so many people are just don't expect it, and it can make such a huge difference. Like, now it sounds like a poster hanging in somebody's like cubicle or something, but like random acts of kindness and like small moments of being kind truly do reverberate outward in really impressive ways a lot of times. Not always, but a lot of times.
Do you think your answer to that question changed after you became a mom?
Um, huh. Like I want to say it didn't. I would love to just be like, no, I'm just always been like at this philosophy, but I feel like that's probably not true. It probably did change after I became a mom, but I don't know that. Like
Yeah, I got you.
I know that I always had a sense of wanting to like make others happier in some way that but I think that any there was an element of nihilism that I wanted to cling to because it was kind of almost comforting to like not to try not to care almost was sort of comforting at times because to feel like you couldn't do anything and who cared um, and I
Mm.
wasn't like once I was a mom it was like ah fuck I can't do that anymore like it's not there's kids like I don't get to not care anymore I've given that up um, so at least that
Yeah.
it at least sort of eliminated that one strain I was kind of holding on to.
Do you think that there's gonna be a third world war soon?
Where did that come from?
I mean, like, aren't we in one right now? No.
I mean, a cold one, yeah. We've been in a cold one for like a while now, but
Yeah.
no one really knows about it.
I feel like I don't see us doing like a big active one because I think we're just too advanced in terms of our weaponry. So I don't see how we do like a third world war without it being like just one day and we blow everything up and we're done. Like it's hard to imagine just sort of a, a conflict that is involving like that much of the globe and is that sustained without us just fully
Have you seen the threats about attacking Taiwan?
threats of attacking Taiwan. I haven't seen threats of attacking Taiwan. Are we? Who's threatening to attack Taiwan? I mean, China, but like,
China, yeah, China's
yeah,
was threatening
okay,
to attack Taiwan like every day for a few years now.
yeah,
Uh, in a few political circles, people are saying that once China attacks Taiwan, it's gonna just dissolve into another
Well,
war.
they better not do that. Let me tell you.
you heard it here. They better not.
Yeah.
We really are
Yeah,
changing the world.
it's reverberating out. That's gonna hit all the people that need to hear it.
Yeah, and Israel, Palestine better chill. Both of them.
Everybody just better chill. That's just that should be it. Just better chill, y'all. Yeah, it's not looking great. I mean, but it hasn't been, and it's I don't have any great like hope for world peace either. So
Is Israel a legitimate country? Because this is a very heated topic that would be interesting to hear from your perspective.
that is a very heated topic. I mean, Israel is Israel a legitimate country? I can't answer that. Israel has existed, you know, obviously since 1948, but it exists on people being expelled from the land. It to me, it's impossible to answer because now it's like, is any country a legitimate country? I mean, the U.S. is very much the same in terms of expelling people from lands and claiming them, and obviously in a very different time, and there's a very different timeline to it. But to me, answering that question just sort of calls into the like, is any state a legitimate state? Like, I don't know how to answer that. I would have to like put on a particular lens. Like, am I talking geopolitically? Am I talking from a philosophical perspective? Am I talking from a moral perspective? Like, you know, no state is legitimate. Would probably be where I would end up, I guess. But it's a little too vast for a pithy answer.
Yeah, I mean, is it classified as a country by the UN? I guess so.
Well,
So,
right. Like, I mean, there are a lot of different sort of ways to view, and
yeah.
then, you know, it's not just Israel. There's a lot of a lot of countries that would have to fall under the same classification of questioning.
Yeah, and in terms of expelling people and treating certain groups badly, I don't know if you've heard, but Canada recently found like the remains of
Yes.
around 200 dead Indigenous children, and that's I don't know, that's pretty rough. Canada has a lot of explaining to do on that one. I'm not sure if they put out a statement or anything. Do you have
Yeah.
anything to say about that?
I mean, didn't they like? Aren't they gonna like turn Niagara Falls a different color or something? Like, I thought I heard something ridiculous like that in response.
I didn't hear about that. That's funny.
They're gonna make a month for Indigenous kids, and it'll all go away.
Well, I mean, look, I'm pretty sure I've heard that same story happening in the U.S. as well. Just not in the last week, but certainly
Hmm.
it's not a uniquely Canadian thing to find that Native
Oh,
and
for sure, yeah.
Indigenous children were taken from their families and sent to schools to be, raised in these sort of white or colonialist manners, and that there were a lot of terrible things that happened to these children, and a tremendous amount of murders, deaths. So I don't think it's just Canada that has to sort of speak to that one. They just have to speak to the latest finding, but that's
Hmm.
unfortunately not unique.
Yeah. How did this get so depressing? We should be more optimistic.
I mean, a suicide podcast. Why would it be depressing? That's not what you're
No, that's the irony
listening
of the show. It's
to.
makes it better.
It's because
Oh
I'm not a
man,
musician. That fucked everything.
we never actually got your question for our next guest. We should get that at some point. Why not now? If you could think of one, it could be anything. Just something worthy
Literally
of a
anything.
discussion.
My question for the next guest. I mean, so is ice cream flavor still on the table there, or do I need to go bigger? I think, going along the same sort of lines, actually, my question would be, what is the um, most surprisingly kind thing someone has ever done to or for them, where they were just
Hmm.
shocked by the kindness?
I mean, I held the door for someone yesterday. I feel like the person who entered that door would say that in
Get them
answer
on your
in response to
podcast.
that.
Track them
Yeah.
down right now. Make sure they're next. You don't want to miss that opportunity.
Okay, I have it right now.
A few days ago, I was like 50 cents short, and the cashier paid for it. I think that's the nicest thing anyone has ever done for me.
That's really nice.
That's so sad.
But that's really nice. It is. Like that, I like that. I think that works.
Yeah, that's something.
That works. Yeah. Yeah.
How are we looking in terms of timing? You want to move to the song now, Crazy?
I think we can move to the song.
Yeah.
Yes,
Well,
yes,
you know
that is
about it
fine.
already, so
I
I
do know
was
about it.
well, Maura knows. I didn't expect her to, but yeah, basically, um, in the interest of being unique and different, break out of competition, we make our guests sing. Or no, we don't make our guests sing. They have the opportunity to sing.
Oh
That I
boy.
can't deny. But
Right.
And so,
Sing anything or?
I mean, we usually choose like a 15-year-old white girl pop song, something that falls along the lines. Like for today's episode, I don't know. Do you know "Perfect" by Ed Sheeran? Because I have that one stuck in my head. It's
I
kind
don't
of pop.
think I know it.
I don't think I know it
Oh,
either.
we could just pick a different one. Here.
What
Okay.
other song suggestions do you have, Honky?
My Ed Sheeran knowledge is just not up to par. Please don't tell him.
Yeah, he's gonna cry when he sees this.
He's gonna be the next guest, right? And then he's
Yeah,
like,
definitely.
fuck.
What
Here's
sort of
my
music do
question.
you
Like,
listen
why would
to?
anyone listen to Ed Sheeran? Oh, which sort of music do I listen to? I I have very wide tastes, but very like I have tons of gaps in my knowledge. So I tend to like get recommendations from other people, and so that kind of puts me all over the map in terms of types and styles of music. But then it's only like, well, they only played me this one song, or they only introduced me to this one artist, and then I don't know anything beyond that. So it's very like I have a very weird
Mhm.
musical knowledge.
I mean, we could do Bob Marley. That would be pretty funny.
Please don't make me sing Bob Marley.
I can do. We can do "Life Is a Highway" or "Twinkle Twinkle Little Star."
Let's do it. Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. Let's do it.
That song is a banger.
And it's good because it's short. We'll only sing the first verse.
No, we gotta sing the whole thing.
And it's also good because I don't need the music for this. I'm gonna play the violin. Crazy's gonna play the guitar. So.
And I'm singing
Unless,
this.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's the only thing we're thinking about right now. So
I know. I feel like you have to cue
might
me
as
to
well
start,
just
though. I'm
get it
very bad
over
at
with.
like I'm not a musician, so I never know when to come in.
Can we just do the first verse? I can't bear. I will not be able to bear this number one verse. Like I can't even.
Okay. You know how "Twinkle Twinkle Little Star" goes, so just kind of sing along to my guitar, and it'll sound great in post.
Okay.
You're very professional here. And a 1, and a 2, and
Oh, it's so hard to do when you're can't hear yourself either. That's kind of it's like impossible.
From what I heard, it was great. We'll make it so much better
Let's
in
add some
post.
beats.
It'll
Like
go.
let's and then we're gonna release it, right? Like as a single.
yeah, as a single, of course.
Then I can go on my next podcast and be like, well, I'm a musician, so
Yeah, you can
Yeah.
put that in your bio now. Musician.
it's all I've ever wanted.
I mean, this is the most unique song we've ever done. So there you go. You could say that. So
Perfect.
typically, when we get to this point in the podcast, we ask our guest if they have any confessions or anything they would like to get off their chest before we wrap it up.
Oh boy.
Kind of like a confession booth.
So, like, my oldest son, I gave him a couple dollars and I let him go into like a little sort of gas station-y kind of store and get himself a treat. And he bought a chocolate chip cookie. And then he got distracted and he played with other things and he did not eat the chocolate chip cookie. And it was sitting in the drawer. And I know it's his. And I know that he's going to think about it eventually. And today I went in and I unwrapped it and I took a piece of the chocolate chip cookie. And now I'm not entirely sure what to do because
Oh,
he's
no.
either going to find it with a bite taken out of it, or I could just eat the rest of the cookie and like gaslight him and pretend there never was a cookie. And I'm not sure which route to go, but that is weighing heavily on me at the moment.
I mean, as a licensed therapist, I would say that you should definitely not eat it and tell him it
No?
wasn't there.
Oh, damn it.
I think that would ruin his perceptions of trust.
All right, fine. Fine. I will just admit to taking a bite out of his cookie. There, you made the world a little bit better. Are you happy?
Yes, I'm very happy.
Good.
He's gonna grow up to be the next president of the United
Oh,
States.
God, no.
This one. I'm kidding. He won't be a pedophile.
I was gonna
Yikes.
say, can we hope he does something good for the world? Not that.
Oh no. Oh man. That reminds me of the Jimmy Kimmel segment where he gets like parents of children to eat their or pretend or tell them that they
Oh,
ate their
yeah.
Halloween candy.
Oh, it's so
Man,
terrible.
that show has some great segments. We have a lot to learn from him, you know? We should do like name a country or name a book. Maybe not with you. You'd probably be able to do that, but with our other guests for sure.
I have not watched a single Jimmy Kimmel episode, so I wouldn't really know.
Yeah, so anyway, thank you for coming on. I think, I don't know, I had a good time. Twinkle Twinkle Little Star was definitely the peak.
Thank you guys for having me on. It's very fun, and I am very honored to be on, even though I'm not a musician. Or at
Thank you
least I wasn't a musician until this podcast.
Yeah, every musician we have on actually becomes a musician only after we make it. They just decide to make music after
You've
that.
changed my life. That's all I'm gonna do now.
Would you like to plug or let people know of any projects you have upcoming, or I guess any of your campaigns?
Well, you can sign up to learn more about Tax March at taxmarch.org, and you can follow me on Twitter for just all of that tax fun stuff and random jokes at Behind Your Back.
And what a great Twitter it is.
Fantastic. Would you like to say the outro?
He's not talking about me.
Yes.
What's your outro?
Just based on what you know, on the episode we did so far, based on all the information you've compiled, what do you think the outro would be?
I have no idea. All I can think is don't kill yourself, but that's, you know.
What a great outro.
That's actually what we say.
Oh yeah, every time.
That's it.
Yeah, it's just don't kill yourself.
All right. Thank you, Maura.
Thank
Goodbye.
You guys.
Have a good night.
Have a good night.
Yo, I was cringing the whole time.